I wish I had a lot more of my costumes, put on some armor, maybe hold up my Captain America shield, just kind of buff myself, but, yeah, I don't have any of that with me. So I'm just going to have to take this full Brent force. Okay, let's do this. Hello and welcome to another movie review. As always, I am Kelly, and I just got out of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. A blatant spit in the face to The Last Jedi. God, I hate and love that title all at the same time. But it basically showcases the problem that this entire trilogy has had. It seems it's actively fighting with itself. And this movie, it suffers greatly. Mostly because that movie did not want to be a part of this trilogy. I mean, you could see The Last Jedi as a standalone thing, and it probably works out better. But in an actual trilogy, yeah, my big description of it was, it is a very entertaining film, as long as you don't think about it. Because if you think about anything in that movie, in context of the series, in context of the current trilogy, or even context of any of the past trilogies, it falls apart. And my non-spoiler thoughts on this movie pretty much can be summed up in pretty much the same way. If you think about any of this movie, it doesn't work. It falls apart around itself. But I don't necessarily blame The Rise of Skywalker for that problem. It's very clear now that when Disney got the rights to Star Wars, their only thought was, how many of these can we pump out and still make billions of dollars off of? They didn't think about cohesive stories or roadmaps. They didn't think about what would happen if they changed directors and writers between films. They didn't think about really anything other than the bottom line. And let's also be honest, this movie's going to make $1 billion. It was sold out months before, anything. So, yeah, it's going to make its $1 billion, and Disney is still going to see this as a win. Until we get a mainline Star Wars movie to have a showing like fucking Solo, these movies are going to still keep happening. That's just the way it is. But with all of this movie's problems, and I will be talking about a lot of them, there are some genuinely good things that are happening inside of this movie. There are some really cool sequences, action-wise and just talking-wise. There's a lot of deep metaphors. There is some subtlety where they do follow up on stuff set up in The Last Jedi, but there's also moments where they are clearly fighting with each other and taking outright backhanded bitch slaps to the last movie. One in particular that I'll spoil right now, let's just say there's a lightsaber joke inside of this that is pretty much a middle finger to that opening sequence when Luke throws his lightsaber away. And the actors and the production and J.J. Abrams, they are trying to give us a great product. And I can see the semblance of one inside of this stone, but it is just not there because the foundation it's sitting on is corroded and not suited for it. So while I'll say a lot of really bad things about this movie and even that movie, I don't think either one are bad per se. They are trying to give us two different visions, and separated, they probably would have worked out fine. Together as sequels to each other, it just comes off as incoherent and, frankly speaking, kind of insulting to our intelligence. There's a lot of MacGuffins and a lot of coincidences that happen in this movie, mostly because they weren't set up in the last movie, and it's really, really hard to get on board with a lot of the character decisions because I'm feeling a kind of a Game of Thrones syndrome here. J.J. Abrams had an ending. He had an idea for it. He may not have written out like in a roadmap like he totally should have, and he should have dropped the fucking mystery box idea. I'm not going to let him off the hook for that. But at the same time, you can tell he had an idea there, and he was undercut by a guy who wanted to go in a different direction. And there was nobody on the producer side, the executive producer side, or any of the crew that basically told him no. So this movie has to spend most of its movie playing catch up, and it has to set up all this stuff very quickly, and when you put it in a movie like this, it just comes off as MacGuffin of the week. It comes off as, hey, let's just throw it out on the screen. Oh, Force users can do this, yeah? Oh yeah, they can do that now. Rey is even more powerful. She finally has some training under her belt, but yeah, she's still way too powerful in this movie. Okay, I'm starting to get into the spoilers of things. Suffice it to say, my non-spoiler section, I made this much bigger than usual because that's pretty much what people are after. If you want to get an idea of what this movie is, it is a very, very confused mess. And I'm not going to give it my normal rating of, must see it, skip it, fuck it, all that stuff, because it doesn't matter with this one. You've already decided whether or not you're going to see The Rise of Skywalker. If someone's watching this later, I doubt it's to find out whether or not you want to watch it. It's more to just see what the general reaction and everyone losing their minds is going to be about. Because, yeah, Twitter is losing its mind right now. So I'll say right now, my normal verdict for this one would be see it at a discounted theater price. Because that's what I got out of it. There's a lot of things that are worth seeing, but not really stuff that's worth all of your money, especially during the Christmas season when you got all the Oscar bait shit coming out. That's what I would normally give this movie, but honestly, it doesn't matter because you've already decided if you're going to go see it or not. But with all that said, let's actually start getting into some of the spoilers. So if you guys stayed for non-spoilers, thanks for staying. Subscribe, put a like button if you want. If you want to go see the movie and come back to this point, absolutely do so. Tell me your thoughts about the Star Wars franchise, especially in Disney's hands, in the comments down below. Let's get some healthy discussion going. I don't want to see any actual fighting down there, especially since I know how polarizing that movie was. But for those who do want to stay for spoilers, I'm going to start, as always, with what I thought the movie did good. The acting is on point from everybody. There is not a bad performance in this bunch. Everybody on this crew is trying to give it their all. And while I have a lot of problems with the writing, the characters, and what these characters are being meant to say, I can still say that the actors are giving 120% of everything they have into this. Also, the visuals are, again, spectacular, but that's pretty much a standard of how all of these Disney Star Wars films have been. Visually, none of these movies are bad. In fact, I'd actually argue that visually all of these are very distinct, on point, and understand this franchise a hell of a lot better than the people who are manning the cameras. And the setups with these visuals are genuinely breathtaking. The lightsaber duel that you see partially in the trailer between Kylo and Rey on this piece of the Death Star with the waves crashing and everything, it's a great setup. I wish that the movie and the writing and the directing had done a little bit more with that, but these setups are genuinely fantastic. I also mentioned that this movie is surprisingly subtle in a lot of ways. Rey's general character arc here is trying to overcome her apparent think that she's going to be evil because, spoilers, she's a Palpatine. Now, this is a complete retcon of that movie, but I thought it was a really stupid idea in that movie to throw that entire plot point away and say they were drunkards. So I'm going to give this movie props for backtracking on that. And yeah, she's a Palpatine, and even if she doesn't necessarily know that she's a Palpatine, she can feel there's something wrong inside. When she's going through her training, subtly they actually start showing that she gets frustrated fast. Like, even the most minute setback is setting her off to the point where she just wants to break and smash the droid that's shooting the little training lasers. They never actually have someone out here spell it out. They don't have Leia come down saying, hey, you get too angry too fast. You need to control your emotions and all that crap. No, they just let the visual show itself. And it is a bit of a problem from the last movie too, if we're going to be honest. By letting this visually just show and build, and then when it finally comes in that she's a Palpatine 40 minutes later, you understand why, especially when she starts using a Sith lightning attack and accidentally kills Chewie. Not really, but that's something to talk about in the next section. Rey's journey to trust herself and to accept who she is and move forward with that is genuinely subtly done. Now, whether or not that's subtly done because J.J. Abrams has a 4-hour cut of this movie where they do spell it out and have to spend more time on it, or if it's done that way because it was a lost plot point. That remains to be seen, and we'll talk about that in the next section. However, there are a lot of genuinely good, subtle moments like that. Also, I like a lot of the ideas that are in place in this movie. In particular, that the main trio are all on their breaking point. Rey going through all of this internal mistrust issues. You've got Poe, who has to ascend to the leader of the Resistance, and he knows full fucking well that he is not ready for this shit. And no, it's not because he makes bad calls like that movie suggested. It's because it's way bigger than anything he's had to deal with. And Finn trying to balance the two and keep them from snapping at each other. I like the idea of them at this point. They have been fighting this war for a very long time in their own ways, and they're trying to hold it together, but they're falling apart. Also, I will say that Kylo Ren going through his story arc throughout all this, being the big bad guy, but realizing that it's not what he wants or needs. He needs to be something better than this. And eventually, becoming Ben Solo again. I found that surprisingly credible and enjoyable. Also, there are a few things that were followed up from The Last Jedi that I kind of found enjoyable. They tried to use them in creative ways, like the whole connection between Rey and Kylo, being able to, magically transport things between the two because of their connection to the Force. They do use that to some cool fight scene effects where locations keep shifting between the two, and things from one location get accidentally transported to the other location, and it's very creative, and it's fun and enjoyable to watch. And probably the other big positive of this movie I can give it is that they removed Huxley from the First Order bad guy roster, because honestly, he was a fucking joke. I'd even go as far to say the way they treated him in the last two movies, he was basically on par with Jar Jar Binks. He had one joke: act snivelly and scream for the First Order, while getting thrown around by Force powers. Yeah, is it any wonder why he turned spy in this movie? I mean, after all, he's treated so well in the last movies.
Supremely... We have no ruler! Don't get distracted, I'll go...
I can't think of any reason why this guy would want the First Order, or in particular Kylo Ren, to die. And in his wake, they do replace him with a genuinely menacing antagonist running this show who actually seems to know what the fuck he's doing. And I will give credit where credit is due. He is so much better than what came before. But with that said, the good here is vastly outweighed by what it does badly. So let's talk about the negatives. In particular, oh god, this movie just does not line up with anything at all. I'm actually going to throw away the freaking Last Jedi stuff for a second. I'm not even going to go into that. Let's just talk about some of the OP bullshit that's inside this movie. Rey has always felt overpowered throughout this entire franchise. In particular, the first movie, she's just shown to have a strong connection to the Force. Her fighting Kylo and actually winning that fight, I completely buy, because A, he is wounded as fuck. B, she has a stronger Force connection than even she's aware of. And 3, they didn't ever actually get to finish that fight. So saying that she won because she managed to do one little scratch across the face, okay, I can buy that. In the first movie, it felt like it was a setup for something better. Then the second movie comes around, and we are just OP land, where she apparently can fight on par with guards trained specifically to fight people like her, and not only hold her own, but kill 2 of them outright. That's bullshit. But that is nothing compared to this movie, where apparently with just a little over a year of training, because that's apparently the only time skip they did between these 2 movies, she is able to pull starships that are trying to escape the freaking planet and pull them back down to the planet, and then shoot force lightning strong enough to blow them up from seemingly far away. I mean, this is just insanity. I mentioned the connection between Rey and Kylo inside of this and how they actually did genuinely use that connection to have some cool shifting fight scene type things. But when you get right down to it, it doesn't make sense, and it is really over fucking powered. Because, again, you're transporting matter from one point in the galaxy to another when you're not actively using this power. What? And again, this power came from Snoke, who is now just a clone in a jar in a background shot. Okay, so maybe Snoke just opened the connection and they're the ones actually using it. Again, how are they transporting so much fucking matter between places? I could buy Luke sending a mental projection from star systems away. Because, again, the only thing that he probably worked on there was meditation. He worked with his mind in what little he actually worked with. I can completely buy that is just what he could do. And it came at a cost. He died doing it. But here, Rey and Kylo can send physical matter with their lightsabers across goddamn planets. And they're perfectly fine. Oh, but Rey overpowered is nothing compared to the Emperor. Let's get to the Emperor. So the opening crawl just starts out with, oh yeah, Palpatine just emitted a giant broadcast saying, "I'm back, and you should be afraid." Okay, we'll just say that he's just that stupid, being that he's connected to a giant fork arm thing and clearly on life support. I mean, he can't even do jack. But in this movie, his Force lightning powers are so stupidly overpowered that in the climax, when you have all of the rebel ships fighting all of the freaking Final Order ships, as they're called, all of these freaking Star Destroyers that have actual miniaturized Death Star tech, and each one has a cannon that can blow up a planet now, which I don't know where you're getting the Kyber crystal for that, but okay. While they're just fighting out there, from his stupid seat on the planet, he just emits Force lightning from his hands that disables every single rebel ship in the sky, complete with a big Inception boom as he does it. It's just, are you fucking kidding me with this shit? No Force user in anything, even in The Force Unleashed, is that fucking powerful. And they throw an offhand line saying that he's all of the Sith combined. And it's just like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. The Force, as it's been shown, is that, the Sith gain power in their lifetimes, and then they die. Hence why they just want to extend their life indefinitely so they can keep all their power and never die. But Jedi are shown that, they forgo the extensive powers, and then they become one with the Force and live on in eternity as a Force ghost that now apparently can move starships or shoot the lightning of their own. So apparently that's not the way it works at all, and apparently it's just, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you have an evil Avatar, and you have the good Avatar in Rey. Oh, so sorry, not Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra. And again, just to showcase how overpowered Rey is, after we just established how powerful the Palpatine's lightning has become here, Rey then takes that same Palpatine lightning to the face and blocks it with one lightsaber. One. Then she pulls out another one and deflects it back. My God, the amount of MacGuffins and overpowering. You'd swear she was an isekai protagonist. All of this because The Last Jedi killed Snoke. Really, that's the only reason why we're getting such fever dreams of ideas with Palpatine's return. Is because Snoke died in the last movie, and he died stupidly. Oh, but let's not, focus on the problems from The Last Jedi. Let's focus on the stuff that J.J. Abrams forgot about. Like Finn being a stormtrooper. Or Poe. Like, Poe has no real point. I like the idea that he's supposed to be the leader here, but he never actually leads here. People defer to him for some reason, but he's never actually the leader. He's just there. And he has a subplot where he's in love with a girl from a random planet that's introduced in this movie for a toy. That's it. There are just so many forgotten characters and so many more shoved in here. There's the aforementioned girl who is in love with Poe, but not really because they won't actually take off her helmet because apparently she's a Mandalorian, I guess. But then we get an entire cast of people from her planet, including a repair droid and all this other crap. And then there's all of these other random soldiers who were all stormtroopers who betrayed at basically the same time Finn did, but we only heard about Finn because main character. Oh, and Rose is in the movie. She didn't really do anything. She was just there. Which I'm kind of okay with. I mean, it felt like her importance was really oversold in the last movie. Having her just there as someone helping, I think is fine. And apparently she's sitting there working with the girl from the bridge in the last movie too. Okay. It's amazing how much is in this movie, but how little of it actually matters. There are so many conversations that go nowhere. There are so many plot elements that go nowhere. Finn trying to give off some big secret to Rey. What? Is it that I love you? Because she awkwardly kisses Kylo at the end of this. And just like, wait, where the fuck did this come from? I never saw any kind of romantic relationship between those two. I saw it more of her trying to save someone she knows she can save. Trying to be a good person. But apparently it's because she wanted to bone him, I guess. You've got entire characters and subplots that just go nowhere, and they don't affect the final battle plot at all. And honestly, the worst thing of it is that this plot isn't really even that good. Like, it's just Return of the Jedi. Like, beat for beat. But instead of a second Death Star, it's an army of Star Destroyers with Death Star tech. That's really it. They even do the whole, you will turn or you will be destroyed thing with Rey and Palpatine. He even has like his own little viewing globe and crap. It's just the same plot point over and over again. And again, they did this exact same plot point in The Last Jedi. And I feel there it was done a hell of a lot better. It was kind of stupid because of a couple of things, but it had a different outcome at the very least. Here, though, it just feels like they're remaking The Return of the Jedi, but badly. That's pretty much the summation of this whole movie right here. Disney had no idea where this was going, and it was clear. J.J. Abrams had an idea, but unfortunately, he didn't leave a roadmap for Rian Johnson. Or maybe he did, and Rian Johnson threw it out because he thought he had something better. I don't know. But there should have been someone on the producer's side, or the executive producer side, or on Disney's side, or a creative consultant side who keeps the shit on track. It's pretty much what they did with Marvel. I mean, Sony's allowed to make their own Spider-Man movies, but they have to work with a creative consultant to make sure they don't do anything that conflicts with the rest of the MCU. Why wasn't there one for Star Wars? I could rant and rave even more about this, but you can tell this was just a clusterfuck of a mess. But with all of that said, I stand by my final verdict here. I don't think this movie is as bad as a lot of people are making it out to be. There is a lot of dumb in here, but there's still good. There is genuine efforts to give us a product that is worth our time. It's just sad to say that a lot of that effort seems to be in spite of itself rather than because of it. Pretty much, you can sum up the entire New Age Star Wars story with, well, it exists. They're going to get a lot of discussion out of it. A lot of people are going to get some good online discussion out of it. This will be my only video on the subject. If you want to debate me inside the comments about thoughts of who's at fault, who's not, what was good, what was bad, please leave them in the comments down below. Let's try to get some healthy discussion out of this rather than the fever dream that we're seeing on Twitter right now. And I think we can all agree that the most important thing that you should all take away from this is, let's go see Cats this weekend. And that's it from me. Did you enjoy my video? Do you think I'm off base? Do you think I'm wrong? Please leave it in the comments down below. Let's get some healthy discussion going and not the fever dream of discussion that's going on Twitter right now. Let's get some healthy discussion on this. And as always, if you like what you saw, like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. All that helps this channel grow into something. And hopefully in this next year, I'll start making money doing this. And, it'll be nice and awesome. Also, I do stream pretty consistently on Thursdays at 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. As a reminder from the last videos, there will not be one this next week because of Christmas, but I will be back the week after, probably on Tuesday and Thursday that week. But normally it's just Thursdays at 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And yeah, that's it for me, so I guess I'll see you all next time when I'm talking about cats. Because it's a thing.